It is my honor this morning to introduce our speaker. Mike Queen is the Deputy Chief of Staff and Communications Director for the West Virginia Secretary of State's office. He joined Secretary of State Mac Warner's staff in January of 2017 after more than 30 years in the private sector. With interests in media, public relations, and marketing, he is a 1981 graduate of Roosevelt Wilson High School in Harrison County. Mike is also a graduate of Marshall University. Come on, there has to be some Herd fans in the house. There you go. Mike's political, where he served as the student body president at Marshall University. He started his political career in the public sector, began with an appointment to the West Virginia Board of Regents in 1984. In 1988, he was elected to represent Harrison County in the West Virginia House of Delegates. And then from 1990 to 2006, he served in a number of local, regional, and statewide positions, promoting the expansion and development of vocational and technical education in West Virginia high schools. From 2006 to 2014, Mike served 8 years as a member of the president of the Harrison County Board of Education. And then in his professional life, Mike has been a sought-after public relations, media, and political consultant. Over the last 30 years, he's consulted on more than 200 local, state, and federal political campaigns. Mike is here today representing our Secretary of State, Mac Warner, with an important message about the duties and responsibilities of the Secretary of State. So please give a warm welcome.
Thank you. Governor Wickline, Director Davis, National Vice Commander Wallace, Bowie State. 39 years ago this week, I sat where you're sitting. And I can tell you that the friendships I made at Bowie State in the summer of 1980 are friendships I still cherish today. So while you're running and politicking and doing all those things that we're teaching you to do with the curriculum in this wonderful program, remember to make friends and stay in touch your senior year in high school. It's a great time in your life, and I encourage you to make friends, make new friends, and stay in touch. Congratulations, Bowie State, on being selected to attend the premier leadership program for young men in West Virginia. In this room are future council members, mayors, legislators, school board members, county commissioners, sheriffs, House of Delegate members, state senators, maybe a governor, United States senator, or maybe even president one day. Don't think it's too far-fetched, because in 1924, a Clarksburg lawyer named John W. Davis was the Democrat nominee for President of the United States, the only major party candidate to ever be nominated from West Virginia. It can happen. And if it's up to one of you with that type of interest, it will happen. No matter what you run for, especially if you decide one day you're going to seek a statewide office, you're going to remember Tom Jones from Boone County at Bowie State, Mike Smith from Calhoun County. You're going to want to call on John Davis from Raleigh County, or somebody from Mingo County, someone you met at Bowie State that you'll need their help one day if you run for a statewide office. So congratulations to each of you for being here, for learning about our election process, for making new friends, and taking what you learned here today to be actively engaged in the election process for the rest of your life. My name is Mike Queen. I am the Deputy and the Chief of Staff and Communications Director for Secretary of State Mac Warner. On his behalf, I'm sorry that he can't be here today. He had knee surgery that ended up being knee replacement surgery. And he called me yesterday saying, I just can't do it. I've attended Boy State with him the last 2 years, and I can tell you that there is no one more interested or more excited to attend Boy State than our Secretary of State, Mac Warner. You see, Secretary Warner is a George Washington High School graduate, went on to West Point where he graduated with honors, went to West Virginia University where he graduated from WVU Law School, received 2 international law degrees from the University of Virginia, and then spent 23 years in the United States Army. While he could have probably taken his education and law degrees to remain here in the United States, Secretary Warner opted to serve in hot spots and military zones all over the world. He retired as a lieutenant colonel and then spent 5 years in Afghanistan, where he led a team of more than 90 lawyers implementing the democratic government of Afghanistan, which saw for the first time all men, regardless of whether or not they own property, giving them the opportunity to vote, and for the first time in the history of that country, allowing women to vote. Secretary Warner has spent his entire political career with young people. So when he has a chance to come and visit with young leaders like yourselves, he really sees it as an opportunity to endorse what you're doing, to encourage you to continue to be student leaders at your school, to engage you to become registered voters, and to remain active in the election process. He believes, I believe, and I think you believe, that we need to have young people involved and engaged, to have a society or to have a state that welcomes young people into our communities, into our counties, and into our state government. West Virginia has a unique history in engaging young people. We just celebrated the 75th anniversary of D-Day, where more than 9,000 American soldiers lost their lives rushing the beach of Normandy to take back control of that part of France. That was 1944. In 1942, because we needed more soldiers, and at the time in 1942, the government couldn't draft soldiers until they were 21 years old. Most people kind of forget that. President Roosevelt issued an order to reduce the draft age for young men from 21 to 18. That executive order came down on November the 11th, 1942. In Congress at the time was a Harrison County congressman named Jennings Randolph. Jennings Randolph said, if they're old enough to fight, they're old enough to vote. Congressman Randolph of West Virginia believed that if you were drafted to fight, especially overseas, you should have the right to vote for those elected officials who made the decision to go to war. Jennings Randolph, 2 months later, introduced the 26th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which reduced the voting age from 21 to 18, because at that time you had to be 21 to vote. The 26th Amendment didn't pass in 1943. It didn't pass in 1953. It didn't pass in 1963. It wasn't until the height of the Vietnam War, where on the 6 o'clock news and the 12 o'clock news every night, the public began to see young men carried from the battlefield in the middle of a war halfway across the world, that people began to believe that people your age, men and women your age, deserve the right to vote. On July 5th, 1971, then President Nixon signed into law the 26th Amendment, giving more than 12 million 18-year-olds the right to vote. Not just the right to vote, but the right to serve in public office as well. Because until then, you had to be 21 to be an elected official, even at the county level. Because we reduced the voting age to 18, the youngest legislator in the history of the United States came from West Virginia. Anybody here from Hedgesville High School? Hedgesville? I don't have to tell you all the names. Sarah Blair, right? Sarah Blair, at your age, 17 years old, a senior at Hedgesville High School, began campaigning for the West Virginia House of Delegates. Her teachers helped her. Her classmates helped her. The custodian at her school recalled the fact that, I really didn't participate in the election much. I didn't think my vote counted until young Sarah Blair asked me to vote for her and asked me to help her. Sarah Blair won her primary election at 17. Well, you might ask, well, why she was 17? Because she turned 18 before the term of the House of Delegates started, she was permitted to run. And run she did. Sarah Blair became the youngest American ever elected to a West Virginia, or to any legislature, to any state legislature. 4 years later, Caleb Hanna from Nicholas County. Where's Nicholas County High School? Anybody from Nicholas? Caleb Hanna became the youngest black American to ever be elected to any West Virginia, any legislature, not just West Virginia, any state legislature at the age of 19. Secretary Warner would tell you if he was here today that you need to get registered and ready to vote. In West Virginia, we celebrate Jennings Randolph with a Jennings Randolph Award. I'm here today on behalf of Secretary Warner to challenge each of you young men to make sure that your school becomes a Jennings Randolph school. If you are able to work with your fellow students to register 100% of the eligible students in your high school to register them to vote, you become a Jennings Randolph school. Why is that important this year? Because in 2020, a presidential election will take place. In the 2018-19 school year, with Secretary Warner's leadership, and some of you all may be here in this room, we registered 15,464 high school students to vote. 15,464 high school students registered to vote this past school year. In the 29 months that Secretary Warner's been in office, we've registered more than 36,000 high school students to vote who will vote in the presidential election for the first time in 2020. The challenge here today is for you all to be engaged when you leave here. You're participating in the election process and learning about it right here. Right here. Take what you learn here, take it back to your high schools, and understand that we in West Virginia, those of us who are a little bit older, we want you to vote. We want you to be involved. You need to know that there's a millennial caucus in the House of Delegates. There are 7 young legislators under the age of 25 who are concerned about some of the very issues I saw in the platforms that I read in your newspaper this morning. They're giving you a voice, and there's no reason why we can't expand your voice in the House of Delegates by electing more young people to be involved. Secretary Warner believes, and I agree, that if we can get you involved in the legislature, get you involved in your city council and your board of education, get you involved in your communities, that you're more likely to stay here in West Virginia. And most of you know that West Virginia's biggest challenge is making sure we keep as many young people here in West Virginia as we can. In our office, in the Secretary of State's office, which is the smallest constitutional office in state government with just 51 employees, we're trying to do our part to keep you here, keep you engaged, and to give you a voice. We have 55 counties in West Virginia, 232 cities. 94 of those cities are having municipal elections today. This is Super Tuesday for the Secretary of State's office because we will elect mayors, council members, and recorders in 94 cities just today, 116 cities overall over the last 2 weeks and the next 4 weeks. A lot of elections. Secretary of State's office makes sure those elections are fair, that they're open, and that they're secure. In West Virginia, we lead the nation in cybersecurity, primarily because we have a Secretary of State who understands, talks about, and has been all over the world when we talk about foreign interference in our campaigns. We have a PowerPoint on our website designed specifically for high school students to let you know about the election process, so you can learn more about what the term foreign interference really means. You're the high-tech generation. We need you to know that everything you see on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, this chat, that chat, whatever chats you're on, that it's not always true. And in many cases, when it involves political speech, many times it is inaccurate information. Secretary Warner wants you to think before you link. Do not just share information. Make sure it's accurate. We need you. We need your leadership to make sure that your generation understands the significance of technology as it relates to our elections, and make sure that you and your peers and your friends and your classmates understand how significant social media can be on the future of our elections. So I hope you have a chance to talk a little bit about that this week. I hope you have a chance to talk about social media and elections this upcoming year. And I challenge each of you to maybe see me after this. I'll give you a card if you're interested in becoming an honorary Secretary of State and working with your classmates to help your high school become a Jennings Randolph award-winning school for the 2019-20 school year. Come and see me after breakfast here this morning. I'll give you a card and we'll get you signed up. Only 27 high schools were Jennings Randolph schools out of 244 for this current year. It is a difficult process to get 100% of your eligible students to vote, because if one person holds off, you can't convince one person to register, then that award isn't as easy to get. Doesn't matter how you register, what party you register with, or what political philosophy you lean towards. What is important is that you vote. You can't vote unless you're registered. So be ready, be registered, and vote. Congratulations again on being here. Thank you to the staff and all those folks who are working to keep Boys State alive. I salute you, I commend you. I'm looking forward to the visit that some of the Boys State folks will take. Art coming down on Thursday at the state capitol. I'll be there to greet you. Congratulations, gentlemen. Have a great day.